All right, welcome back to episode 6 of Building as We Fly. We're back together.
Yay, just what you want to see.
For your viewing and listening pleasure. Both Kirsta and Luke on the mic today. And today we're excited to talk a little bit about the importance of partnerships. And specifically, we're going to focus on our partnership and how we support each other in both being entrepreneurs and how we're also figuring out some of the friction that comes with it as well. You get a little insight to, I don't know.
Tell them it's perfect. Tell them nothing is wrong. Everything is fine.
Totally. Anyway, I'm sure you want to hear all about some of the fights we've had, but at the end of the day, I think it's important because we always come back together because we know we both just want each other to succeed, and we want our family to succeed. We want our marriage to succeed. We want our kids to grow up in a healthy household. So we have that, common shared goal and are working towards it. And we see each other as partners in all of this. So.
Yeah, definitely. So I think to Kirsta's point, it's really important. And we were kind of talking about this episode. We do this thing now where we go to lunch, we talk about the episode a little bit, then we dive in after lunch. So for a little loopy, it's even a little wild. That's probably why. Just to give a little context. But basically I was talking to Kirsta about how yes, our partnership is very important. But I was also thinking what if you don't have a partner, then you might need a support system, right? So it's also something else just to keep in mind. One, if you do have a partner, it's important to make sure that they're behind you. And it's not, I went through this phase too, where I was asking for permission a lot. And then we went through this discussion where I was I don't really want to ask for permission anymore. I kind of just want to say, this is what I want to do. How can we make it happen?
And when he says asking for permission, he means asking for permission from me. He would come to me and ask for permission.
like she was my mom or something like that. Yeah. So it's just unhealthy. And that's not really a partnership. A partnership is hey, this is what I want. How can we make this happen together? Mm-hmm. And she does the same to me. I don't want her to ask really. I'd rather just say I want to go work out. Can I do that? Yeah, it's fine. But
even less than that, right? I think we've really worked on how we frame it when we have situations like that, because we do have 4 kids, we have 2 businesses we're running, right? So we're constantly having to figure out where can we squeeze in our prioritized time for ourselves too. So we both understand that that's really important to each other. He knows it's important for me to be able to get to the gym and have my time there. He has a workout routine and meditation routine that he does generally from home. And so it's about respecting each other and our own personal priorities in addition to the family and the business, and helping each other, figure it out. So when he'll say hey, I need to do my workout and my meditation, I'm okay, maybe right now isn't the best time. Can you do it, later this afternoon or something like that, because of we got to transport kids somewhere or something like that. Coming together, voicing your need, but then having a conversation about how's this going to work best for everybody involved.
Yeah, I think the important part to Kirsta's point is framing it properly, because it's if you ask, then it's the other person can just be no, you can't work out. And it's that's not really an answer. It's I want to work out and I want to find a way to work out today, right? So I think when you frame it that way, it's more solution oriented in the sense that you're just taking charge. Hey, this is what I need. Let's figure it out together. Versus the other person just be no, you can't, right. And that's always an option. If you ask, don't be afraid of what the answer is. Right. So, anyway, that is something that's been super important for us, I think, to make sure that we're just speaking to that and being honest. And even if it's going to ruffle some feathers, so we say things that may not go exactly as planned, but I think to Kirsta's point, just knowing that we're in it together, we're here for each other, and we're just going to make it work no matter what. There have been times where Kirsta's hey, I had this call at 7:30. Can you take care of the kids? Right. And again, it was a question, but there's a common understanding that yeah, I'm going to make it work. We'll figure it out together. So, and the thing is, she knew I wasn't going to say no because we know this about each other. I'm like, yeah, I got it. Like, not a big deal. But that's just another example in our life, like of, we have our personal commitments, keeping ourselves healthy and mentally stable. And then we also have like work commitments that sometimes come up. Or, there was a go live. I think we talked about this a little bit in one of the episodes. There was a go live for one of my clients, and it's like, hey, Kirsta, I'm starting at noon and I think it's going to go like all night. And I had told her this in advance. And then she was just like, okay, I got to take care of like the household and the kids now because you're going to be wrapped up for the next like day, 24 hours, basically is what it was. So, and she was super understanding about it and super like chill about it. And I think that's just something to recognize. And this might be a future episode as well, Kirsta. I feel like we like spin off so many ideas in these things.
I know. It's a good thing.
It's like a little think tank. But basically, that's the difference between, see, I told you I was going to do this. I was telling Kirsta, I'm like, we're on a Zoom call by ourselves, basically. And after like a few minutes, it's like, hey, are you still on the call? Because you're by yourself recording.
Yeah, we're still here.
Yeah, like you're by yourself, just talking to yourself. You know that, right? Anyway, so the point I'm trying to make, and I think I'm losing my train of thought, is that like that's the difference between side hustle and entrepreneurship. Like side hustle to me is like, yeah, if I can get to it, I will. And like, I'll just be flexible and I'll try to hit this deadline. I'll try to make it work. And it's okay if I slip a few days. Whereas I feel like entrepreneurship, it's like, you gotta have to be all over it. Cause it's like your lifeblood. It's actually like money in the door. And I feel like the impact that you have on your life is so much more significant. And so that's an important like distinguishing factor to make is like, if you are going to go on entrepreneurship, you and your partner have to like realize that like, oh, this is going to be like a really big commitment. And like, I have to like, there are days where I have to like work all night. Like there have been situations where I'm like, crap, I didn't get this done. I have to get it done tonight. And like, this is unexpected and I just have to take care of it. And so you have to have somebody in your corner, basically, that's like saying, okay, yeah, I understand this is just part of the game. This is how things go. Sometimes it's not always that 9 to 5 grind. There are going to be early mornings. There are going to be late nights. And again, I think it's just expectation setting too, because if you go from like a full-time to entrepreneurship, you don't know what you're getting into. It can be very surprising for not only yourself, but also your partner specifically when they're like, hey, what the heck? You're not spending your time with me, or like we don't hang out ever anymore. And that's just because like the level of requirement, I think the level of like work and effort and energy required for running your own business is significantly higher than a 9 to 5. It's people like to glorify entrepreneurship and make it sound so sexy, and it's fun. It's a blast. It is kind of sexy, but realizing that there's a ton of work that comes along with it. It's not just like a free hall pass or something like that. The upside is much bigger, but there's also like a lot of risk associated with it too. So you do feel like you have to push sometimes when needed. So anyway, I think that was a huge rant, but go ahead, Kirsta.
There's a lot of truth to that. And I think it's just something I'm thinking of as you're talking as well, is that there's a prioritization that has to happen too, of like, it's not going to look the same every day because, life is different and there's different priorities every day, different projects, that sort of thing. And I think something that, was easy for, I think, both of us to fall into when we were both at, our standard 9 to 5 jobs was like, okay, that when you come home from work, you're like fully unplugged and then you can kind of do whatever you want. And right now we're not in that season with where our businesses are at. We're kind of on 24/7, which we talked a little bit about in, I think, the first episode, that, it gives you a different, I think, energy though, when you're working for yourself and you're motivated by that. So that even if like we are for, being, pulled into a conversation on Slack that we weren't anticipating, at 8:00 at night, something like that, we can have the power to respond and say, I can't get you the definite answer you need right now, but I'll be able to get back to you, tomorrow when I'm out with the kids, and feeling like empowered in that way to do so and kind of define it for ourselves, since every day does look differently. But I think going into each day with that like priority list in your head of like, what are my non-negotiables that I have to get done today, which I know you know people do at their normal 9-to-5 jobs too. But are you smiling? Are you laughing about something?
Yeah, no, this is just me personally. Keep going. I built one like every single day this week, and it just like hasn't happened. And I'm like, gosh, like just eye roll. Yeah, like the past like 2 or 3 days, I have this thing on my list, and like it just kept not getting done for whatever reason. And this week, like another developer like overwrote my code, for instance, and I'm like, oh gosh, now it's really not done. So anyway, I'm just like. And then for me specifically, I to Kirsta's point, every day is a bit different. Some days I have a ton of time to actually work, and other days I have like no time to work. At least lately, that's been the case for me. So anyway, she says to do list like
because he's in meetings, not because he's not working.
Yeah,
like the actual when he says like do work, he means like coding a website. When being in a meeting is work too. It's just then sometimes doesn't feel as productive because you don't have that tangible output.
Yes.
So that's
mainly sales calls and or meetings. Sometimes like it's been a mix of both as of late, which is kind of different for me. But anyway, non-negotiables in the sense that like in an ideal world, I'm going to get all these things done. I've started to realize that like not every day I may be able to knock those off the list, even though like I really want to. So give yourself a little grace is what I'm getting at. It's like, I'm not like hating on myself because I didn't get X done for the past 3 days. It's like, there's a lot of like circumstantial stuff that came up. So anyway, go ahead. That's why I was smiling because I'm laughing at myself. Like how I didn't get anything done or anything that I wanted, like I thought I needed to get done that specific day.
But to bring it back to like the partnership concept and even more so like communication with your partner or your community, like the people that you surround yourself with to achieve the goals that you're working towards. I think it's really important to have those conversations up front. So, how Luke mentioned that we go to lunch every Thursday now. Most Thursdays. Sometimes there's a meeting or something that pops up, but we try to prioritize it because otherwise we are 2 ships in the night. We barely talk through the rest of the week. I mean, we talk together on the podcast, but when we're here with the kids, it's very logistical. It's like who's getting who where, who's making what food, who's doing the laundry, who's doing the dishes. It's all
who's
of that.
Feeding
kind of
that
thing.
Kid, who's getting that juice, that drink for that kid. Right. Yeah, it's like you said, very logistical.
And we do find too when we're here with the kids, like if we do try to talk about anything important or mention work or how we're feeling about something, there's immediately a kid that pops up right in the middle and they need something or they have to tell you immediately something that happened that day at school. And it's
like you can have like a 60-second conversation. That's about it. And maybe not even that actually, but yeah.
And even when we say like, did you not hear mommy and daddy are trying to talk about something? I'm like, oh, no.
Yeah, they just not. They don't care. They don't care. They're having a conversation.
Yes. Anyway, so my point being, we really prioritize that time together on Thursdays because we know it's our opportunity to come together once a week that we can kind of hash some stuff out, whether it be work, whether it be personally related, which I mean, they're always intertwined for us, but it's always both. It's never just one or the other. It's our opportunity to do that. And even there's been times that like we'll maybe get into a disagreement about something earlier in the week. And, I might be wanting to like hash it out and fight about it in the moment. And Luke's like, you need to come back to this on Thursday.
Yeah.
Which makes me more mad sometimes.
Yeah, which you love.
Because I'm like, I want to talk about it right now. But it's also, I think there's a level of trust that we've developed in each other that we know we'll circle back to it. Just because we're not hammering it out in that moment doesn't mean like we're ignoring the problem. It's just communicating that like right now is not the time to do it. We have this time set aside. We really prioritized it. We'll make it happen then. So I think that's just another important thing to consider. Even if you're not in a relationship with your business partner, making sure you have set aside time scheduled to talk, because if you're just flying and just making work happen, because we've seen this with some of our clients before where they don't have intentional time set aside to talk with their partner. partners, you're thinking of the same person I'm
Oh
thinking
boy. Just okay.
of. Oh, I should probably cut that part out. Anyway.
Nope, you gotta leave that in.
Anyway, when you don't have time to really sit down and talk things through, then you're operating like you're under a fire hose and you're just go mode.
Mm-hmm.
And you really have to take that time together to hash things out, be a little planful, talk about your emotions, your feelings of things. Because I think even in a business setting, talking about how you're feeling about something is important so that everybody gets on the same page. So anyway, that's another tangent, but
we got to talk about that like another episode too, because I think that aspect, Kirsta's been really coaching me on, which is like, hey, like these are people, like, like you can relate to them outside of like just the work that you're actually doing. So like, that's the other thing that I've been definitely like more aware of, because she's made me like, hey, like you should probably like ask how they're doing, or like, ask how things are going outside of work, because, a lot of the stuff we do is relationship oriented, even though I like to think otherwise. That's not really true. So yeah, that's definitely something, an aspect too, of like business that has helped me as far as like Kirsta and I like talking together, is like, what's cool is we can talk through things and like Kirsta can give me advice, and I may not like it at the time, but then I'm like, okay, yeah, maybe she was like kind of right there.
This is something we actually talked about last week, because I was like, I don't know that you always recognize the input that I give you and like how you take it and put it into action. It was like, I had one of those moments where I was like, I don't know that you see it. Like, you don't really absorb that like I'm the one that told you that.
I feel like I like blow her off immediately, like in the current time when she's giving the feedback, and then like she turns around, he's like, wait, what the heck? That's what I just said.
Literally what I just said. Yeah.
So anyway, yeah, it's again, that's the other thing too that I think everybody is mistaken on, or like, I feel like in today's society, it's like, oh, if it's not perfect or like it's not going well, just bail, or there's like, just like, no, it's not going to work. Screw it. Like, just take off. Right. And it's like, that's not how relationships work. To me, that's not how marriage works. Like, we're always growing, but like we have to like find each other as we kind of scale up together. And it's never like, it's not always going to be, it's never really perfect. And it's not always going to be like, oh, the best time ever, and this is great, and every conversation we have is great. And then we have no disconnects or miscommunications. I think most people are aware, but I think this expectation that like, oh, it's going to go well every single month and every single day, it's like, that's not true. That's not how it works. So like, that's the other thing too, is if I get too far gone on like working and I'm just like heads down, like Kirsta's like, where are you right now? So she'll like have to like call me out and like literally yank me out of that and be like, hello, wake up, so it's good to have a partner to like balance you out too. That's the other thing. Like, if you're very similar, it's like, that's maybe not even healthy for you. So like, I feel like Kirsta and I work very well because we're kind of opposites. Like, we come at things at a very different angle, and we help complement each other and help like fill each other out as a person as well, not just on like the business side. So I think that's also something that's important, is just realizing that like your partner, for the most part, I'm sure there's exceptions to this rule, is probably trying to help you. They're probably not trying to hurt you. They have your best interests at heart, and they're just trying to work alongside of you, or like be connected to you in some way. So that's the other thing I think is important, is just like realizing that like, it's not going to be always like easy and always like stable. You're not going to be like constantly going up as a couple or something like that. That's just not how anything in really life works. Everything is kind of like up and down, as we know. It's just like, hey, if we're heading in the right direction, we're making progress, that's good enough. And you'll have bigger valleys sometimes and bigger mountains sometimes. And I think that's just like a fact of life and all facets of it. So just kind of keep that in mind, that like, yeah, okay, we're having a tough time now, but that doesn't mean we can't fix it, make it work, and move on, to something else. So what are your thoughts are on that, Kirsta?
Yeah, no, I think it's a really good point. And then I also was thinking too about, your like friend groups and community groups that you surround yourself to when you're going into a new venture. Because Luke talked about his men's group that he's a part of. In his episode.
Give him a shout.
Yeah.
Let's go, guys.
And they've been really supportive of him as he's gone into his, own business. And then also like in life, right? Like, they can call him out on other areas that maybe I don't have the same impact with him, or it's not received as well as it's just.
I just said that. No.
I just said that. I don't understand. Which thankfully, like, he doesn't always take it negatively when I'm like, hey, like, what just happened there? And I feel safe enough that I can call him out on it in a kind and loving way. Right.
Yeah, so kind, so loving.
Generally.
I know. I'm just kidding around. That's fine.
Anyway.
We're emotional creatures. What are you gonna do? It's like someone's gonna get upset at some point. Someone's gonna get defensive. This is just how it goes, like from my perspective.
Right.
One of us, one or the other.
But knowing that at the end of the day we have good intent for each other. But
yeah,
that was also my point too, is that like I have some friend groups that I really trust and surround myself with that I talk to daily. And I think always circling back to that, like we want what's best for each other, even if we don't fully, understand or know exactly where that thing is going or what exactly they mean, or it just maybe doesn't resonate with each of us exactly the same as what that person's doing. But like, we love that person, we want what's best for them, and we're going to be, honest about our perspective on it too. And if they receive it well, that's great. And we hope they know that we have their best interest at heart. So I think it's the same like with Luke's men's group too. So
I think this is, again, maybe this is 2023 and I can't say this. Kirsten's like, oh gosh, what is he going to say?
Face right now.
I think it's just really important to have, like, to be like friends that are supportive of you and like kind of understand you and whatever that looks like, right? Like, it doesn't really matter what that is, but people that are maybe in the same field of interest or like same sort of like life circumstance, I think it's super important to have those people like surrounding you, because it's like, I can tell people something or I can tell someone something, but if like they're not married, like they don't understand. They don't know what the hell I'm talking about. So I think it's kind of important to have like people that are in your corner that really know what you're going through. Otherwise, it's like, what good is their advice? It's like, if they don't really have the same experience or not going through similar things or have not gone through similar things that you're going through, right? So I think it's just super important that people are that can relate to you. It doesn't really matter who it is, I guess, or what they look like, but as long as like they have a similar life experience or like they kind of have, yeah, I don't think I need to like reiterate that at all. Like, I think that's really, really important thing, because, sometimes Kirsten and I are like, in some sort of discussion or conversation, I'm like, hey, I'm not really getting this. And like one of my guys would be like, bro, like that's not, like, you're looking at that all wrong. Like, you're kind of looking at it this way, like you're being super negative, and like, it's just not the right way to look at it. So it's good to have people in your circle that are gonna like call you on your shit, basically. Can I say that on this episode?
Why not?
Okay, I don't know, YouTube. Like, you tell me. I guess we'll find out.
There's an option to ask you, is this episode appropriate for children?
Oh, well, okay. This is gonna be found in the not appropriate for children category. But anyway, that actually helped like course correct me. I'm like, oh, okay, like actually, like, that's a good point there. So yeah, I think it's really important to get other people outside of like your interpersonal relationship, like your primary partner, if you will.
But it's interesting though, because like your group of guys, I would say they all come from very different backgrounds. You have like a similar interest, like there's something that brought you all together.
Sure.
But you have very different backgrounds. You're all somewhat in the same age bracket.
Yeah, I would say
around the same age. But there's guys in the group that aren't married, and Luke and I have like, there's been some friction about that sometimes, because someone will give him advice and I'm like, do they even understand what a long-term committed relationship looks like? Because I get a little like feisty sometimes when I hear something like that and who it came from, when I'm like, but they don't even know what that means, or like what having 4 children in the mix of all of this means or looks like either. But then he's like, oh no, but like then this person, had this perspective. And I'm like, okay, so they get
it's
it.
Diverse. Yeah.
They understand. But on like, to give them some credit though, there have been times where he's like, oh, well, so-and-so said this. And I'm like, oh, I love so-and-so. Like, that's great. Like, and that person maybe isn't in a relationship. And so,
Well, I think that goes to show, like, Kirsten, and I'm sure you experience this too. It's like when people tell you things, you don't have to take all their advice. Like, you don't have to actually, you don't have to take that in. You just like, okay, thanks. But like, that doesn't really resonate with me. And that's okay. It's like, that does happen from time to time. And I think just going with that throughout the world is probably a good, like, a sense of not skepticism, but just like, I need to think for myself. Even if someone tells me something, it doesn't have to be true. I don't have to believe it. I don't have to say it or do whatever they're talking about. Right. So anyway, I don't know what your experience is in your friend group, but
yeah,
I can see where I'm like, I don't really agree with what that person just said, but that's okay. They're their own person,
Yeah. Most of my very closest friends are people that I either grew up with or people that I went to college with. So they're pretty much like same age, similar backgrounds, that sort of thing. But then I do have a couple of very close friends that are a little bit older, that have different life experiences, maybe aren't from the area, that I talk to really regularly. And I feel like we stay really up to date on each other's lives. And I always really value their input and their perspective, because sometimes I'm like, yeah, you've just seen more of the world than I have. And you just know more than I do. And yeah. And same goes for, I have a couple people who are younger that I'm really close with that just their life experience is different. I don't know. And when Luke was talking about having people that are like similar to you, I almost was like, no, I think it's really important to surround yourself with people who are very different, which I actually do think your group is. That's why I said that, was because I think like your group, they have a lot of different backgrounds and perspectives, but
I'm saying like relatable. Yeah. Well, I was saying like relatable and like relatable life experience, I suppose, just like at a core. I think it's gender specific, but again, I don't want to get too crazy this episode because it's not the time or place, but like, to me,
we would fight about it.
Well, I can't be like friends with a bunch of women or something. It's kind of my point. Like for me personally, it's important that they're men. That's just how it goes for me. But again, I'm not trying to say anybody else needs to be that way. That's what it is for me. I think it works best, but you do you know. But anyway, I think this episode is kind of running.
I know. I don't know how long we have been going, but
we should probably end it sometime soon. Or now, or you just be like, hey guys, that's it.
I think to wrap it up maybe with a bow, we had a lunch today where we were talking about the importance of like being there for each other, communicating, viewing each other as true partners, not only in business, but also in life, right? Mm-hmm. And there has been a lot of life situations that have brought us to the place that we are at today in that perspective. A lot of stuff we have gone through together as a partnership and a marriage. Mm-hmm. We go to marriage counseling once a month as well. We have our weekly lunches. So like we really have put a lot of work into what that looks like. And now we're at a place that it's translating over into business. So we put in the work personally, and now we're working together professionally and pulling some of those foundational pieces out and applying it to the business aspect as well. And we just thought that was important to share with you guys.
All right. Well, thanks everybody for listening today. You know what to do. You know what we're going to ask you. You got to like, comment, subscribe, tell everybody else about that podcast. Anyway. All right, everybody. We hope you have a great rest of your day, evening, morning, whenever you're listening. Thanks so much. Bye-bye now.